Hi, everybody, and welcome to Up Close with Travis Wyman and MotoAmerica. Ted
I'm
Weir,
good.
MOA Executive Director, who is helping with tonight's production.
How are you, Paul?
I'm great. You know, we don't get to see each other very often in person, and at the first Road America in Atlanta 10 days ago, we did. So that was really great fun.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful weekend, and it's a great kickoff to the season to go road racing, or at least for me to watch. I didn't road race, obviously, but to get out there and experience motorsport and see all the fans and people who just are that enthusiastic about motorcycles is just a great kickoff to the season for me.
Once again, I really appreciate MOA's support in what started as a COVID way to engage members. And I think it's been going so well, I hope we're going to continue. We have one more next week, and I'll make that announcement now and again later at the end. Sean McLean, who is the new product manager responsible for MotoRed, will be joining us next Wednesday, the 19th. So I hope that everybody will dial back in for that. Any other comments, Ted?
No, I wanted to thank you for what you're doing here. I think it was a great effort on your part to do something a little bit different, and we were really happy to participate. And I'm going to sit and be a very entertained person on the sideline. I think I shared with you that I'm just a huge road racing fan, and this will be super interesting to me to hear the comments and see the behind the scenes. So I'm looking forward to tonight.
Ted, thank you. We'll talk to you later.
See you, Paul.
And here's Travis. How are you, Travis?
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Well, I'm doing really well. And, you know, as we get started, I really want to thank you for the opportunity to hang out with you and your crew and spend some time getting to know you. And as it turns out, when you get to know one, you get to know the family down in Atlanta. And I look forward to working with you more when we at Road America. We have one of your primary partners in crime also joining us, Steve Weir. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome and thank you as well. Steve and I first met a couple years ago at the dealer meeting in South Carolina. Steve, for fear of really messing up what you do, how about if you give us a description of both of your job and under MotoRed, because you do work for MotoRed, and I can tell because you have the latest apparel, and Travis and I have last year's. At first, what's your role within the organization, and what's your role with Travis and with MotoAmerica?
I think if we just look at it as what my position is, it's a race support engineer. And basically what that is I'm supporting every racer across the entire United States. And even outside of the United States, I'm also supporting racers in Canada as well.
So you've limited yourself to North America.
Well, yeah, that's it too.
What's your riding and technical background? That does not seem like it's a role within the organization that one puts out a resume for. It's something that it's pretty select.
Yeah, it was. It reads more like a storybook how I ended up with BMW North America. Without going into too great a detail, I started doing this back in 2012 with the electronics and self-teaching on how to read data. And eventually that kind of worked into myself doing it for other teams. And then that's when things just the snowball effect kind of occurred with it. The teams that I worked for won numerous championships. And I was actually racing, 2014, I was racing at Auto Club Speedway. And Nate Kern and a group of folks from BMW NA were making their way through the paddock. And they came over to me. I was like working on all my own stuff, reading my own data and manipulating the electronics on the bike. And Nate Kern came and introduced himself, introduced me to everybody, but there was a key player in that, and that was Thomas von Westberg, who he introduced me to, who is a German engineer who does what I do in Germany. And now he's doing it for a World Superbike. And it was that introduction that Nate bringing me into there that just kind of kicked everything off. I had a ton of questions for him, and then it just kind of spooled from there. And the next thing I know, I get a call at my house on a Sunday morning from BMW North America asking if I wanted a job as an engineer for it.
Well, the bikes have not become less complicated since 2012.
No, but they haven't, but I tell you, they have gotten way better.
Yeah.
Everything from the electronics are better, the chassis are better, the engines are better, and it's the bigger, stronger, faster package for sure.
So as we're talking about beginnings, and I've heard this story from both of you, Travis, how did you meet and connect with Steve in BMW? And I know you've been riding BMWs for 4 years, so this goes back a few years. How did you connect?
So it's a funny story. Steve's version is a little more comical than mine, but
Steve, feel free, you know, you're not.
I was actively competing in, AMA and MotoAmerica for many years. And then in 2017, I actually wasn't racing full time. So I spent a lot of time at the paddock, observing, watching the races, talking to teams. And, I was really disappointed that I wasn't racing, but the hard work and effort in going to the track and talking to people turned into something great. I mean, we're sitting here now, and actually Steve will tell a better conversation about how I actually approached him. But really, I was looking to see if he was interested in having someone to help test the bike off the track in between the rounds, and maybe give myself a start on a 1,000cc bike, because previously I'd only raced in 600s. So I'll let Steve take over.
I think for everybody that's here, we should hear Steve's story as well.
I have the professional version, and Steve has his.
I have it how just like it was. I mean, basically, I was working with the team, and the rider had a couple crashes, and Travis approached me, introduced himself, and he said, "So how's it going?" I'm telling him, "Hey, it's going good." And he goes, "You trying to collect data? You want to collect good data?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. Collecting more data and learning and growing in the process." And he's like, he goes, "I think I could get you more data without all the crashing." And I'll never forget it, because I was just like, "Who the heck is this guy? Like, what's this deal?" And but I'll tell you what, that conversation was like this splinter in my mind, and it stuck with me. And he left me his phone number, and I reached a point working with multiple teams. I kind of always felt like something was being left on the table with the teams, like more could be done, that wasn't being done. But it wasn't my team. I was just being, doing what I was told or asked to do. And it got to the point where I was like, I think I can do this better. And it just kind of spanned from there. And I got a hold of Travis, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go test my bike?" And so it actually started with my bike. And he says, "Heck yeah." So we met up at Auto Club Speedway, and he was really fast. And I was like, "Whoa, this kid's got something."
Travis, was that a tough decision to take Steve up on that?
Absolutely not. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd ever get the call, but I'm happy that I did. And I think I made it through a few testing sessions and a couple of races before my first crash. So I think I fulfilled my duties.
Well, I think you're in process. While we're talking about the bike, obviously you're riding the new generation. So you started racing the RR in 4 years ago, right? 2018.
In the winter. Yep.
So tell us how your first time out on the bike was.
So first time out was really exciting. I don't think I'd been to Fontana before, and it was my first time on a true proper setup 1000cc bike. So it was really just kind of gelling with the bike, learning the track, and starting to work with Steve and Alex, our crew guy now, and really just get comfortable and see if we had a shot at MotoAmerica in the stock 1000 class.
And how did you do that first year?
First round we won at Road Atlanta by about 10 seconds.
And then
The second round of VIR we won by an even bigger margin. So
and how
we had a really good start to the year.
and how did that year finish?
We ended up second in the championship.
Cool. And then
pretty close.
28, wait a minute, I'm losing track here. 2019?
Yeah, in 2019 we competed aboard the same bike and had some good success again. I believe we finished on the podium once, but we were fairly consistent. And towards the end of that year, we opted to move up to Superbike to try and gain some knowledge working in the other classes. So we didn't really end up high in the points. I think we ended up 6th, but it was still another learning year.
Good.
Paul, kind of the idea behind us jumping into Superbike was just to kind of push Travis over the edge and get him to go faster. You know,
It
it
seems
put
to
him
have
it put
paid
him on the
off.
grid with some of the fastest people in the entire U.S. And it was nothing more than to help push him over that edge.
Then, and we'll talk about the difference between the stock 1000 and the Superbike a little bit later. But then last year you were on your brand new bike.
Yeah, so last year was a little different. We really weren't sure that we were going to be racing. And with COVID and the lockdowns, the race schedule got pushed back until end of May, almost June. And it wasn't until a few weeks before that we found out that we were going to get the new bike, or at least Steve was. And I was actually down at Steve's house like 2 weeks before the race, miling the bike up on the PCH highway in California. So first time on the bike on track was first practice at Road America, and that was kind of unnerving, but also very exciting.
And how did last year in the short season go for you?
It was difficult at times. We started off the year kind of fresh, and it took me a while to get up to speed. And I think we finished inside the top 10, which I wasn't really happy with. But and then in between the first 2 races, I ended up breaking my elbow really bad. So we had a huge setback in our progression with the bike. And overall, we had some good finishes. Me and Steve really wanted to be successful with the bike. And maybe at times, we kind of butt heads because we were guessing on setups, but it was all out of, passion to do well, because we knew that what the bike was capable of. And we also had some kinks along the way with the bikes. So overall, it was great. We ended up second in the Superbike Cup Championship and third in the stock championship. And now we're going into this year with an even better game
You had a
plan,
good
really.
start. For those of
Yeah.
you,
That was a good start.
who don't know the details, this was a week ago Sunday at Road Atlanta, where Travis won the stock 1000. Also, in going through these, I know that you have each of you have objectives of what your partnership can do for you individually and BMW. And Steve, what do you see as your role in work, meeting those goals and objectives with Travis?
So with Travis, it's everything about giving him the best package, the most comfortable package that will allow him to do what he does and go as fast as he can.
So we're good. So let's talk about, again, BMW's objectives. Steve, sorry.
So, yeah, I mean, for BMW, my primary objective is to put as many BMWs on the podium as I can across the entire United States. Period.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And to win as many championships and races at the club level and at the national level as well.
And you're providing, I know you're out there, you're literally on the road every weekend.
Yep.
Is Travis the highest profile rider you're working with in the US?
I support Steve Scheibe and his team. I'm trying to turn off my phone. Somebody just sent me a message saying, turn off your phone, it'll fix it. Okay, I'll try anything. I've sat down with a number of writers, but right now, as far as the folks competing in MotoAmerica and where they're finishing, like Travis is the guy. I mean, clearly he is.
I know it's a team effort. Travis, what are your objectives in working with Steve and BMW?
So my objectives in racing have always been the same: to win a national championship. And I've been really close. A lot of times I got a handful of second and third place trophies on the trophy case of the house. But when me and Steve got together, we made a pact to each other that we needed to win a championship. And we've got a couple of seconds, third, and I'm sick of the seconds and thirds. So as you guys can see that picture there, all the preparation and testing we put in will hopefully pay off, and we can continue to get some more wins and hopefully a championship.
So
we're all working hard for it.
It's the riding, but I know you have an incredible crew. And here's, you're working on details on a turn-by-turn basis in the paddock. And here's Steve, where his most common view of Steve is in front of a laptop. And if you could possibly see the enlargement, there is a track outline there on the screen. This is another common view of Steve.
Yeah, that's our little off-track office.
What do I do?
But it's a team effort. And in your case, Travis, before we get into some of the race photos, one of your, as I've mentioned, it's not often that some of my favorite photos in a presentation aren't ones that I take, but I know with you, both of your brothers were also racing. I met Cody and I met a lot of the other family, but your family has a deep history in motorsports. And I'm going to let you just narrate these photos as we go along.
So that's actually a picture of my grandfather, Harv, racing his old, looks like a Ford Coupe back in the day. So racing's been in the blood ever since.
Do you have an idea what year that was?
No, I don't even want to guess.
And not
anyways,
only
Harv went on to start the Harley Davidson dealership. So that's a picture of my grandfather and I believe my grandma there on their Harley in front of the house, which still stands in the compound where the shop is at in upstate New York.
And how about those three guys?
Those three guys, from right to left, that's me, that's older brother Kyle, the black shirt, and then Cody, and then my dad. And that's his drag race bike down on Daytona Beach.
And here's one more that's just great.
Yeah, there's the three of us riding out in the field. It's kind of where it all started.
So how old were you when you started?
Started riding around 5 or 6, and then started racing around 7 to 8.
And you said you've been racing professionally for what, 14 or 15 years?
Yeah, this will be this is my 14th season professional. It's pretty crazy.
And you're 20, yeah, and particularly because you're 29, right?
Yes. Yep.
I think it's great fun. And, you know, here is older brother Kyle on a super bike at coming through turn 10B last week. And here is younger brother, whoops, let's go back. Younger brother Cody on his 400 Ninja. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
And
Yep.
in the Junior Cup. And it was great fun to watch everybody ride. Now, of course, you're there riding, and I know how hard you worked during the setup, which you told me was the worst day of the weekend for you because it was just so much to get done that was not related to the riding. But you have a crew here at the pit, and you are in the pit, and that's Steve hiding behind the MOA logo. And then
that's,
talk a little
sorry
bit
to
about
interrupt. I just want to highlight that is our team right there. You know, most teams have at this level have 7, 8, 10 guys. You're looking at Steve there, Alex Torres of Fastline Motorcycle Performance, and then my mom. That's what our team consists of. And in my opinion, some of the hardest working people in the bunch. So
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And I joked with your mother that every time I would see her, she'd have a different shirt or jacket on, depending if it was you, Cody, or Kyle.
yeah, she's like Superman.
Yeah, walk by a phone booth and she'll change clothes. Tell us a little bit more about Alex.
So that's Alex Torres. Fastline Motorcycle Performance is his shop. I used to be in California, and then he moved to Austin, Texas recently. But he really is like the lone mechanic on the bike. I've even offered in times to bring more people out to help out, and he's like just wants to do it all himself because he wants to know that it's done the right way. He wants to know that it's up to his spec, and he really just never stops working.
He was
He even helps me drive the rig to the races sometimes. So between him and Steve, they make it happen for me.
Yeah. So
I
Steve,
wouldn't have it any other way, really.
How do you interface with Alex?
So Alex and I, long before Travis came along, he was the mechanic for several teams that I worked for. One primarily that we won several championships with. And this guy has been the feather in my hat since we started, really. Makes me look good because I don't have to do anything. He doesn't let me touch the bike. He's like, don't touch the bike. You just work on the computer. The bike, I got that.
Well,
no, he's an amazing guy. He's a hard worker.
And a really nice guy, too. I mean, I enjoyed meeting him. We're going to show a few race photos now. And talk about the track at Road Atlanta. It was my first trip there, and I found it just gorgeous. This is the S's.
It's my favorite track in the country for sure. I've got a few race wins there under my belt, and I just love the elevation changes, the scenery, the technicality of it, but also the simplicity of it too. I don't know why, like, riders have certain tracks that they excel at and ones that they don't do so well at. And this is one that really suits my riding style, I guess. Actually, sitting behind me, that's a picture of, over here, me with my first ever win at Road Atlanta. And
okay.
Steve doesn't let me do burnouts
you can point
anymore,
to the picture now.
So I love Atlanta.
Yeah, it was great fun. And I really liked the turn 6 and 7. This is coming out of 7, and it shows how close you guys are and how you're mixing it up. Here's the inside of 7. Yesterday, when we were doing a run through, I put up a photo and Travis looked up and said, you know, that's not me. I didn't when I put it up, but when I looked at it, I did on the big screen. It's interesting. It's a Michelin branded track. So the stripes visually, instead of the stripes being red and white, they're blue and yellow. And photographically, it's it matters, the reflection, whether it's off of the blue or off of the yellow. Oops, so let's go to another series of shots here. I'm sorry about that. Here we are in a little bit of a crowd. Now, for your stock 1000 race, there were 35 bikes on the grid. How did that feel diving into turn 1 with 34 of your best friends?
The challenge wasn't the race. The challenge was practicing qualifying, trying to get a clean lap and put in a time. It was really a matter of luck to try and time it so that you weren't getting held up, because there's a section of track that's one line for a long period of time. It's very difficult to pass. But in the race, I mean, we qualified second for the weekend. So being ahead of 34 other bikes, it's not too bad. But I was pretty surprised in the race to see 6 or 7 of us up in the lead group.
Yeah,
really just shows how deep the talent level is in this class now.
Now, this is not your class. This is the 600s, the super sport. But again, it shows how they bunch up in those turns.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good racing these days in MotoAmerica.
Good. When did you move up to MotoAmerica?
Well, it was the old AMA series. That was the Professional Road Racing Championship, and then it converted to MotoAmerica, I believe, 15. So I moved up to the pro division when I was 15 years old back in 2008.
And then was it not until you got on the double R that you started riding the thousands?
Correct. Yeah, not until 2018. So I started out racing in 2008 with the Red Bull Rookies Cup when they had that championship here in the US. And then I did quite a few years of racing 600s, Super Sport, Stock 600, and then also the Harley XR 1200 racing. And was pretty successful in both classes, but I really feel at home now on a 1000cc bike.
Well, you look great out there. This is from the Superbike race, and you're not in that image, but it's one of my favorites, going through 10A and 10B, and there's Kyle at the end of the line. What is, either one of you respond to this. What is the difference between a Superbike and the stock 1000? I know we start with the same bike, but what are the changes that you make to only have it as a specialty Superbike?
Go ahead, Steve.
So I think if we just go real simply, we look at suspension is one of them. Big changes, we're able to run the full Olin's forks versus us cartridges. Their price points for the stuff that they're able to put on the bike is different price, which is kind of where a lot of this comes from. Electronically, they have the ability to utilize what we call sectoring. And sectoring is when we're able to control the electronics for every single corner, entry, mid-corner, and exit on the track. Whereas in super stock, we're not allowed to do that. Some of the other things with super bike, there's stuff with weight. They have different weight allowances than we do. The engines typically, I would say, are probably 15 to 20 horsepower more than ours at a minimum. And you'll see that just in the straightaway speeds versus ours. Typically, the straightaway speeds are a lot higher on a super bike. It's not always so much how better somebody gets off the corner. Sometimes it's just sheer horsepower and pushing gear.
Yeah, some people are having trouble hearing you, as am I.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yes. Travis, what's it
Yep.
like? Have you ridden a super bike?
I've never ridden a full super bike, but when we did move up to super bike in 2019, we were able to make some of the changes suspension wise and some of the linkages to make it handle quite a bit better. And from stock to super bike trim just in suspension, we went anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds faster at each track without a change in horsepower or electronics or things like that. So it's a pretty significant difference.
So, what's the primary difference? Is it just, not to trivialize this at all, but it seems like it's a question of money.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, the stock 1000 is basically an entry class and something to push you forward to get into superbike. It's like a preparedness for going to superbike.
Well,
And then,
yeah, both
Paul.
you shoot the Isle of Man, and in talking to the privateers, the non-full-time big sponsored racers, when I asked why the double R, they said, well, you could take it out of the crate and race it. And you could race a stock 1000 in a superbike category, but you can't reverse down. So what were your placings in superbike at Road Atlanta?
So Road Atlanta, I finished 7th on Saturday.
Yep.
And then 8th on Sunday, which is an amazing effort, seeing that we were ahead of a handful of the superbike guys and at the lead of the stock guys. And at any point to be inside the top 10 at the highest level in the US for me is a huge achievement.
So
I never thought I'd see the day to be like in this photo here, I'm not too far behind out to the right side, but
no, you're not. And there's only one bike between you and Kyle.
mhm.
With that in mind, there is also the Superbike Cup,
Yes.
and you're currently in the lead. So tell us how the points are determined.
Yeah, so the Superbike Cup basically allows stock riders to compete in the superbike races for a separate championship. There's some perks involved, like with winnings, and Dunlop is sponsoring some tires for those riders in the Superbike Cup. But let's say, so I finished 7th of the Superbike guys, and I was first of all the stock guys. I get first place points. So it works the same points wise. So I finished first in both Superbike Cup races. So I leave Atlanta with 50 points.
Fabulous. Now, as I tell people, I try and show the speed and the movement with my photos, but nothing really can do that like a video. So, in talking to Steve and Travis, we wanted to put a GoPro on the bike for MotoAmerica for a practice, and that was against the rules. So the week before, Travis was racing at Buttonwillow in California. Do I have that right? And
Yes.
Here's the first race where he had the honor of being 18th on the grid. And it's about 2 minutes of video. So Travis, do you want to just narrate?
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, here's 18th place start. Track I'd never really been to. A lot of guys I never really raced against, so pretty nervous on the start, but try to get as far up as I could. And kind of carefully pick my way through the field. A couple of the guys out there are really quick, local guys. But really, this was all in preparation for MotoAmerica. Our goal was to go out there and test, grid up, do some races, put myself in a situation where I didn't know the track and have to get up to speed very quickly. And I believe here I'm probably in like 6th or 7th place. And after 6-8 laps, however long this race was, I ended up winning the race. So it gave me some strategy. It gave me, points to pass, try to, learn a new track, figure out how to cut through the field as quickly as I could, which is ultimately what I had to do at Atlanta, because I got some poor starts. But there's a local guy passing me back. It was good. The talent level is super high out of Buttonwillow, and it really challenged me and kind of pushed me to a new level of preparation for MotoAmerica. So it was a great weekend.
Cool. Great. Now we're going to talk a little bit about money, because we talked about the difference between, having a second bike. It's not only is it extremely expensive to have the super bike, but it's expensive just to have this one. And here's a shot with, excuse me, most of your sponsors on it. So and we'll talk about your various jobs in a moment, but it seems like it's a full-time job just to get sponsors and to deal with your sponsors.
It is. I mean, I work 12-hour days at the track doing my coaching jobs, but I work even harder on my days off to manage this race team and try and put things together and coordinate things and raise money to compete. So in this picture here, you see the California Superbike School as title sponsor. They were title sponsor for Road Atlanta, and they came forward with money, and we worked out a good deal to showcase them as title sponsor for the weekend. So that's really kind of my strategy going forward. And I do have a title sponsor already for Virginia, the next round, which I'll announce at a later time. But I don't want to spend 20 minutes on this photo. I could talk about how great all my sponsors are and everything they do for me. But I do want to highlight a few.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Harley Davidson is my grandfather's Harley dealership that was started in the early 1960s, which my mom runs now, and she's in charge of supplying me with the rig, the hospitality, and she's doing tire warmers. She's helping out when she can. She's such an incredible woman. And Herb Seaver BMW, they were my title sponsor for the off season, so they helped me gather parts and get me ready, and ultimately got us to where we are today. So huge thank you to them. Handful of other sponsors that donate equipment and gear and support me financially as well. I could spend 30 minutes talking about all of them, and there's a handful of others on the tail section. And I hope to continue my relationship with these sponsors and hopefully be able to showcase them at some of the rounds this season.
Well, we're going to leave that now, but I knew you wanted to thank them, and it's important that people know. Travis, it was fun to spend time with you to ask about what else do you do when you're not what jobs do you have, because I knew you had several. And you told me that the racing wasn't your job, but tell us about the others. The first one, of course, is who was your title sponsor. Talk about California Superbike School. We had Dylan Code on about at the end of March. So Dylan's a good guy.
Yeah.
Tell us about your relationship with them.
I got involved with the California Superbike School probably 7-8 years ago. when I was out here in Vegas. I actually saw them I was actually working a car gig, instructing in four wheels, and I saw them operating on the outside track up in Vegas. And I went and just started talking to them, and fast forward all that time, I mean, Keith Code is taken my riding to a whole entirely new level. He's taken me under his wing. He's given me access to all of his pro coaches to help me improve my riding. And I've been a coach with them for many years now. I wish I could do more school dates, but my schedule doesn't allow for it. I have to partition my working days between all 4 and 5 jobs that I'm juggling.
Okay, what are your other jobs?
Sorry.
What are your other jobs?
Real quick, Keith and Dylan have been so good to me over the years, and I just want to make sure they understand how much I appreciate it, because I wouldn't be where I am today without them.
Now, talk about your four-wheel jobs.
Yeah, so I got involved with cars 8-9 years ago now in Vegas, and just kind of taken off and never really settled. I always wanted to achieve more in the car world too. And just to keep it short, I work at the Ron Fellows Performance Driving School, which is Corvette, Cadillac, GM based vehicles. And then I work for the Ford Performance Racing School, split between Charlotte Motor Speedway and Salt Lake City. And then I work for the Allenberg Driving School, the racing school up at Laguna Seca.
You are a professional driver.
I did the math one year. I spent about 286 days at the track.
Wow.
Whether it was coaching, teaching, racing, and I don't think I'd have it any other way.
I'm glad you're enjoying your life. Now, the question, of course, comes, who coaches the coach? And here's James. Tell us a little bit about James Toohey.
So that's James Toohey. He's been at this school for almost 20 years full time. And when I first started out, the guys that trained me were the senior coaches. And not only just training me riding wise, but training me to be a coach at the school. It's a pretty sophisticated training program they have. And at the time I was working with Keith, I was working with another senior coach, Johnny Haynes, and then James also. And it never really was an official thing that me and James agreed upon. But this year I've kind of assigned the role as a riding coach, because even the best riders in the world have a riding coach, and I attribute a lot of my success to him. He was at the first 2 chuck wall rounds we tested at. He was at Buttonwillow. He came out to Atlanta for me. He's coming out to VIR. And what his role is just to help kind of break down my weaknesses on track, review video, go to areas of the track and watch. And as you see there, he's probably making fun of my sandals or something, but he's a great guy.
You look awfully serious.
And I'm fortunate enough for the Superbike school to allow me to have access to James for these type of things.
As we're getting near to wrap up, there are a few questions. What race are you looking forward to the most? You've already said Road Atlanta is your favorite track.
The next one. It could be my least favorite track, but I'm just looking forward to getting back out there.
What the next one is this coming weekend?
It's VIR.
Yeah. And
which the next 2 tracks on the circuit are some of my favorites, which I've had a few wins at already. So if we can keep this momentum going, I think we'll be in a good place.
Cool. That's fabulous. Now I'm going to just read a couple questions. Somebody said, as an engineer, how does it feel to have a lap record at, I'm assuming the questioner is an engineer, but how does it feel to have the lap record at Road Atlanta?
Man, I got to tell you, when it happened, I couldn't even believe it, to tell you the truth. I knew Jeff May broke it, first. And when Travis broke it, I was like, man, I believe he actually has more. In fact, in reading the data from that race that he broke it, I'm putting it all together and I'm like, man, he could break this again while we're here. Like it was there. It was there for the taking. We just need to make some adjustments to the bike, get him a little bit more drive grip off the corners. And that's what we did. And he turned right around and broke it again.
So how long had the record been standing before you broke it?
Just from the year before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the rider that won the championship last year, won both stock and Superbike Cup, was Cam Peterson. And he brought our class to an entirely new level. He was riding the bike better than anybody had ever seen in stock trim. Yeah. And my goal for this year was to follow that up and prove to everyone that the BMW is capable of accomplishing those feats too.
Question came in and it was emailed to me as well, but he just asked it again. What do you ride at all off the track, aside from where you were trying to get miles in on the RR on PCH?
I'm sitting in my garage and I'm staring at my Harley that's collected dust and probably hasn't left the garage in 2 years. I do try and stray away from riding on the street. I'm fortunate enough that I spend so much time at the racetrack that when I'm home, I want to either relax or ride my mountain bike.
So what do you do?
My two-wheel effort off the track is cycling.
What do you do to stay in shape?
Definitely cycling. I've become slightly addicted to mountain biking in the last year. But I do a lot of cycling, a lot of yoga, a lot of mobility exercises and stretching. I stray away from doing a lot of heavy lifting during the season. I do some in the off season in the winter time, but for me, it's all about cardio and flexibility.
Cool. It's great. Anybody, let me just check questions one more time. Thinking of VIR, what challenges do you see coming up there? You've done well at that track? Anything
biggest
specific?
challenge is that we haven't ridden the 2020 there yet.
Correct.
Last year's round got canceled, so we don't necessarily have a baseline setup like we did for Atlanta and all the other races. But I really put some faith in Steve and all the data that we did collect over the year to have a pretty solid setup. And I'm sure, Steve, you can chime in on that.
Yeah. For the last week, that's all I've been doing is looking at data from, well, it's 2 years ago now, from our previous gen bike. But the gearing, the transmission, and all that is exactly the same as what we're on now. Mm-hmm. But the new bike, we found that typically we can drop a tooth on the sprocket and run a little hard because it has so much more torque off the corner. Just some real small changes, but typically what I'll do is I'll compare the changes that we made from Atlanta on the previous generation bike to going to Virginia and the changes between those two chassis. And then I'm going to kind of manipulate what we have now, what we learned Atlanta, and bring it to Virginia, just like we did in the past.
Sounds like a great plan, and I will be watching. I will be watching,
Simple,
and I
right?
will see you at Road Atlanta, not Road Atlanta, Road America. Travis, any comments around track learnings that can apply to us street and trail riders? Any comments?
That is there's an extended answer to that question. However, if I had to break it down as simple as possible, the most important tool to riding or racing on track is your vision. And looking ahead, trying to plot a line, and without getting too crazy, just being as smooth as possible and riding within your comfort level, not pushing yourself beyond. We see it happen way too often on the track for first timers.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. Any final comments?
For me, Paul, I got to thank BMW North America for keeping me on board, allowing me to do what I've been doing. Backing up Travis these last couple of years is pretty amazing. And just maintain the program for all BMW races across the US, not just Travis. I mean, I was just up in Oregon at the races up there for AMRA and Weir. I worked with the club level guys there. Before that, I was on the East Coast, out in Florida, working with folks out there in Georgia. These are all club level racers. And I got to tell you, without BMW, I wouldn't have been at those rounds. Special thanks to Mark Boucher. I got to tell you, if anybody's in our corner, he is, and he's provided us more support than we've seen since I started doing this job. But also, obviously, he has to have the willingness of BMW to support us as well. So it all comes back to BMW North America, and Travis knows.
Travis, any final comments?
Just that my career has taken a turn that I never thought it would, and to be involved with BMW and to work so hard to be successful. It's a team effort. For Steve having faith in me to perform on the bike, and BMW and Mark Boucher and everyone involved, and my crew guy Alex, my mom, my long list of sponsors, everyone that believes in me, all the hard work we put in to make this happen. It's a dream come true.
Oh, thank you both. You two hang on for a second. I've got, as I mentioned, we're going to put this up online so you can share it with people, and it will be available to watch in the next couple of days. I am also going, as I put in our note, I'm going to print 5 large format 12 by 18 photos, draw the names from the people that were here, and send them out to Travis to be autographed and sent on to you. I will have all your emails, so after I draw your names, I'll ask you for a mailing address, and be patient because I know Travis is on the road a lot, so we'll get that taken care of. And thank you all, and thanks to MOA for supporting the programs, and we'll see you all at the races. Cheers.